Alright, so this is the landing page that we'll be building today. As you know, Nuxt 3 is right around the corner, at least the stable release is. So I'm just taking a job at the beta release that's out, and I'm going to build this landing page using Nuxt 3 and Tailwind CSS. So let's get started. Alright, so here, new folder opened inside VS Code, and we're just going to run the command to start our Nuxt 3 application. Let me just paste it in. So it's npx nuxt init, and we're going to create the application inside this folder. So press that and press enter. And after all of that, we can just install the dependencies with npm install. Alright, so after installing the dependencies, we're going to add the dependencies for Tailwind and init our Tailwind config file. So I'm just paste that command here. So we're installing as dev dependencies Tailwind CSS, post CSS, auto prefixer, and then npx Tailwind CSS init will create our config file. Once we have those installed, we can actually add the post CSS configuration to our Nuxt config file. So let me just paste that in here. After adding this, we can add the content files to this content key in the Tailwind config file. This content key just tells Tailwind where to look for Tailwind classes in our project. So just add all of these to this content key. Alright, so next we're going to create our CSS files and add the CSS key to our Nuxt config. So we're just going to run this command, make directory, asset CSS, and then create the main CSS file inside of it. Then we can add that key to our Nuxt config file. So it will be CSS and then at, and that auto completion is coming from GitHub Copilot. After adding the CSS key to the Nuxt config, you want to add these Tailwind directives to your CSS files. So you just copy and paste them in the main.css file. Above the imports here, I'm going to add the Poppins font to my CSS file, and then I'm going to extend the font family inside my Tailwind config file. So I should say font family, and let's just change this to Poppins. After doing this, I'm going to go to app.view. I'm going to change this Nuxt welcome tag to Nuxt page, and then I'm going to add some metadata to the page. This is what it will be. Oh, let's close up. So it's just the use head composable that comes from Nuxt. The title is going to be Advanced Homes, and this is just some meta information for the website. So once that's all done, we can actually go ahead and run our project. And it should start on localhost. So let's just jump to Chrome and see what we have. And we have a blank page, of course, but the title is in place. So let's just add the header of our landing page and see if Tailwind is actually working. So we go back to VS Code, and what we want to do now is just create that pages directory and add the index page inside of it. So I'm gonna go pages index.view. Let's just see if Tailwind is working. So let's go div. Let's add a button. Hey. red. And this CSS that you're seeing here is the actual Tailwind extension in VS Code, so you can install that to get these things. Now let's jump back to Chrome, see if we have our button, and there it is. So we know Tailwind is working. Let's go back to VS Code. Now that we know that Tailwind is working, we can actually go ahead and add our header to the web page. So let's just jump on that. So we're gonna start by adding the header tag and add some classes. So I want this to flex, want the items in the center, justify space between, and let's give it a height of about 80 pixels, which is H20 in Tailwind CSS. I'm going to set the max width of this header to about 6XL, which is this value in pixels. So that's fine, and I want it to be in the center, so MX Auto. And I think on small screens I wanted to have a padding of 5, and large screen let's take away that padding. So of course we have no content inside of the headers yet, so nothing will be displayed on the web page. So let's just add some elements. First element is going to be the logo. I actually got this logo from Logo Ipsum, so I'm just going to copy it over into this project. But let me first create a component folder. So component, and I'm going to have icon, capital I, and then logo view. And I'm just going to copy the SVG for this logo. This is it. And then I'm going to bring this logo in. So it's going to be inside a Nuxt link. And it's going to the home page. And we want to import that icon logo component. So give us a class of not these things. Let's go with a height of 14 and a width of 14. Let's save that and take a look at the browser to see if it's actually being rendered. And there it is. Alright, good stuff. So let's go back to VS Code. Alright, so now that we have the logo implemented, we're going to go ahead and add the nav bar. So the nav bar is going to be UL tag. It will be a class of flex. The items are going to be in the center, and we're going to add a space between each item. Let's go about 3. And we want it hidden by default. Yeah, let's hide this, because on mobile devices we don't want it to show, but on larger devices we can display this. What we want to do is add the navigation links inside our script. Let's go setup. It's nav, and this is going to be an array of objects. We want these. Let's just change these to link. Slash about. Let's just change this to the hashes. So we have home, about. Let's add another one. Let's reviews. That should be good. Then we're going to loop over these inside a template tag. So for nav index in nav, we are going to create an li tag. I'm going to have a Nuxt link inside. And we have some autocomplete here. It's going to go to end.link, and the text is going to be end.name, not text. We need to add the key to the li tag. So let's go nav item I, and we're getting this error because it's saying that the key should be placed on the template tag and not on the child of the template. I think this is happening because of the Volar extension that I have installed. So let me just disable it for this workspace, reload, and that's quickly it's gone. Good. Alright, so after disabling the extension, the Volar extension, we move the key to the template tag and Nuxt stop complaining. So let's just go to the Chrome browser and see if this is being rendered, which it is. We have the navigation links here. Alright, let's make them look a little bit better. So let's jump back into VS Code and add some style to these. Alright, so we want the nav link to be inline block. Let's give them some padding. Let's change the background of each. Be gray, about 50. Round it full, and make text small. We also want to change the background color if the user hovers over the navigation link, so they know that it's actually clickable. So we can use that with the hover from Tailwind. Let's just change it to slate 200, and we don't want the transition to just jump back and forth, so let's do transition all and set the duration to 300 seconds. Now if we save this and head back to Chrome and refresh the page, we see where hovering over them gives this little background color, and it's not just jumping, so it's kind of smooth. Alright, so I think the last thing we should be adding to the nav is the download button over here. So we'll push these into the center and add the download button here. So let's jump right back into VS Code, and we want to just come down here, and below this UL tab, let's just add the download button. And this is going to be another Nuxt link. It's going to let's just say hash for now, and the class we're going to implement soon, but let's just say download the app. So this is going to be a purple button or violet button. So we'll start by giving it some padding. Text 5, py. We make the text small. Give it a background of violet, 700. Make the text white. Make it rounded. And when the user hovers over the button, we want the background to darken. So that's violet 900. And again, we're going to set transition. Wait, right? If I can spell. transition to all and the duration to 500. So let's save that and jump back to the browser and see what it looks like. And this is what it looks like. Not what I expected. I think we missed the padding somewhere, so let's just jump back to VS Code and see what went wrong. So the padding, so we have the padding X, but we forgot padding Y. Padding Y should be 2. So save that, back to Chrome, and there we go. All good. So this is the navigation. Let's see what it looks like on mobile. Good. So on mobile, the menu is hidden, so we have the download button and the logo. We could add a menu button or menu icon and create a side drawer, but I'm not going to do that in this video, maybe in the future. So let's just jump out of this, go back to VS Code, and we can do the main section. Before doing the main section, I'm going to do a bit of refactoring. Let me just move this into its own component. Header.view, and we also need this. Alright, good. So now let's just create our hero section. This part is going to be main tag, so let's just create that, and we want it to be a certain width on large screens and a certain width on smaller screens. So the first thing I want to do is to ensure that this thing is in the center, so use MX Auto. On large screens, I want the max width to be 1152 pixels, which is max width 6XL. On smaller screens, I want the padding left and right to be 20. On larger screens, no padding left and right. Smaller screens, padding top is going to be 56 pixels, and on the larger screens, the padding top is just going to be 48 pixels. Again, no elements in this main tag, so nothing has been rendered. So let's add our H1. That's the message that we see when the page loads. The message is going to be welcome to new age of, and then a break tag, and we're going to put this in a span because this is the part that we're going to put in color. Advanced forms. So the CSS for this H1 is going to be capitalized. Make the font semi-bold. On smaller screens, the text is going to be an arbitrary value, and we can do that in Tailwind by putting the value in square brackets. So I'm going to set 38 pixels. On large screens, the text is going to be 7XL. We're going to center the text. Make the line heights snug, and then we should be good to go. So let's save that and look at our browser. Let's see what we have. And there we go. We have this text. Good. So now we actually want to put this in color or add a gradient to the text here. So let's do that. So jump back to VS Code, And then this span class is going to have a few properties added. The first thing I want to do is make the text a bit bolder. So font extra bold, oh, extra bold. And we're going to use the BG clip text, make the text transparent, and then start the gradient to the right. And we want it to run from violet 600 via pink 600 or 500. Now let's go 600. And then it's going to stop. Oh. Then it's going to stop at amber 600. So if we save that, jump back to the browser, let's see what we have. There. Nice text. Alright, so what we want to do next, we want to create or let's message down here below this heading and then our call to action buttons. So let's jump back into VS Code. So now we're going to create a p tag. So our p tag will go below the h1. I will just write a simple message. Let us help you make the transition. And we're going to give some margin between the h1 and the p tag. A 10. The text on smaller screens is going to be 2XL. On larger screens it's going to be 3x. So text center and font weight of medium should be good. So let's see what that looks like. And that's what it is. So now we're gonna add our call to action buttons, and we're just gonna put this in a div. Let's give the div a class of I don't think we need text center. Let's give it some margin top of 10. On larger screens, let's make that 14. Flex, put items in the center. Justify center as well. And space between the items is going to be space x4. Inside the div, we'll add two Nuxt links, and they will represent our buttons. So this Nuxt link is going to be similar to the one that's in the header. So we can actually just copy this from the header and paste it inside here, because it's going to be saying the same thing, download app. We're just going to make it a bit bigger. So padding top and bottom is going to be 6 and left and right 3. It's fine. So let's just see what it looks like in the browser. Yeah, that's fine. Same hover effect. Good. Now I want to create a button similar to this one, but it will not be highlighted by default. It will only get highlighted when the user hovers over it. So to do that, I'm going to create another Nuxt link. It's going to go to nowhere at this point. No, let's not add the text as yet. Let's add the text inside a span tag because we want this to be a block level element. So let's make it block. We're gonna give it the same padding as the button above, so they're the same size. Transition of all, duration of 500. And what we want is we want the button to have a white background by default with a small ring around it or a thin ring around it. And then when you hover, the background is going to transition in. So that purple background is going to transition in. To accomplish that, we have to make this span block level element. The text is going to be the default text color, but when you hover over this Nuxt link, it should change the text color to white. So let's use a group hover from Tailwind and want text to be white. This group hover will only work if the parent element has a class of group on it. So let's just add that. On top of the group class, we want this to also have a class of text sm. We want the overflow to be hidden, and you'll see why in a second. Let's make it relative, because we'll have an absolute element inside of it. The background by default is going to be slightly gray, and there's going to be a ring around this button. When you hover, the ring is going to become transparent, and then by default the ring is going to have a slight gray color. So that's ring gray 100. Let's make this button rounded like the one beside it, and we want the transition to be smooth as well. Alright, good. So let's see what we have in the browser with this so far. Oh, nothing. Alright, no problem. I think that's because we need to add the text inside the span. So let's go take tour. And if we save that and go back to the browser, it's there. So you see transition to white, and it's slightly gray with a little ring around it. All right, that's cool. So now we want, when we hover, this background should become violet as well. So let's just add that quickly. So back to VS Code, we are going to add a div element inside of this Nuxt link, and it's going to be it's going to have a position of absolutes. We want the height to be full, the width to be 0 by default, and when you hover over it, the width should become 100%. Of course, we want the transition to be smooth as well. And we want the background to have that violet color. So if we jump back to the browser and hover over this, we can see where the background is coming in, but the text is still the wrong color. So let's just fix that in VS Code. So let's just make this relative, and that should fix it. So before we leave here, let's just put this in its own component, and let's just call it hero. And hit save, and we should be good. Let's just jump back to ensure that everything is still being rendered. There we go. Refresh, still works. Good. Alright, so next we want to add the image to the background. I got this image that I'll be using from Pixels. So let's just add our image and then add that gradient that we saw over the image. So let me just grab the image real quick and add it to our project in VS Code. So images in Nuxt 3, we no longer have the static folder. What we have now is a public folder. So let's create that. And then we can just add our image to the public folder. And this is the image that we'll be using. So what I want to do is I want to have this image displayed behind our hero and header section. So I'm going to add a class of relative to this div. Let's just give it a minimum height of screen and add our image tag. So the source is going to be home.jpg, because that's the name of our image, JPG. Let's just give it an alt tag of advanced home, and then other classes. So we are going to add object cover. We want this to be 100% in height and width. We want to be positioned absolute. We want the top, left, right, and bottom to be 0, so that it's stretched right across the screen. Let's just give it a z index of 0. Now if we take a look at this in the browser, we should be seeing the image behind everything. And it's not behind everything, it's actually on top of everything, except this. So let's just fix that. So we go back to VS Code. And to fix this, we can just add a div around these two elements and add the class of relative and the height of 100% to them. And if we jump back to Chrome, they should be behind everything, and it is. So we have the image behind our content that's on the home screen. All right, so now let's add that gradient so that we can actually read our text and not be confused by all of this madness that's happening. So back to VS Code, we're just going to add this div tag. It's going to be positioned absolute as well. Same inset as the image, but we're going to change the background gradient. And the background gradient is going to be from white. It's going to the bottom, of course. So it's going to be from white, and then via white at 60% opacity to transparent. If we take a look at this in the browser, then it should be readable. And I think the last thing that's left for us to do is to make sure that this thing is responsive so it doesn't look like crap on mobile. So let's just minimize it, and yeah, it's responsive. So that's it, guys. I'll just leave the link to the repo in the description so you can check it out for yourself. You can definitely visit the Nuxt website to see the dates that they'll actually be releasing the stable version. It's actually going good so far. I was not a big fan of the change, but after trying it, you know, it's okay. It's okay. So until next time, peace.